Wednesday lunchtime. While the last people trickle into the room, because it's only just gone 12:30, I will just give you a little bit of housekeeping before we get cracking, because we've got an awful lot to cover in the next half hour. First of all, if you've never been on one of these webinars before, you're very welcome. I do one at the end of each month. They're always free. They're always half an hour. They're always fast and furious, and I try and jam pack them with as much helpful information as possible. If you don't know me, my name is Toby. I was an agent for almost the last 15 years. I now train other agents and consult, my key areas being video marketing, the world of lettings, and AI, which is why we're here today. If you have a quick look around the chat room, you'll see a couple of features which you might want to use. I can see a couple of you, hello Teresa, hi Lisa, have found the chat function. Do feel free to use that as we go through, and I'll do my best to keep an eye on it as I'm waffling. You'll also see that there's a poll currently live. You'll see a tab for polls, and there's a live one that just allows me to gauge the kind of level of familiarity that we have from attendees with AI today, so I can slightly try and adapt things as we go along. There's also another tab which is empty at the moment. There's a handouts tab with an icon of a little sheet of paper. And I will drop something in there towards the end of the session. And I do want you to know that a lot of what I'll put on the screen today will be in that handout. Any prompts that I share with you, the prompt structure that we'll look at later, will be in that handout. So if you see a lot of text on the screen, basically that will be in the handout. What to expect from this webinar? I'm going to try to keep it to half an hour. There's an awful lot that I'm trying to squeeze in. I think I've got about 45 slides to run through in half an hour. So there's a slight chance that we'll overrun, but I'll try and keep it as quick as I can. And if you need to go, then you need to go. Like I said, there'll be a download at the end with a lot of helpful information. We're going to do a bit of background research, a bit of background information about AI, and then we'll dive into practical uses for AI and this is aimed at property professionals, estate agents. So we'll look at how I've used it day to day, and how that can help you as well. I will allow myself one brief moment of self-promotion about halfway through. These sessions aren't really about selling my own services. I try and make them as helpful as possible. But to warn you in advance, there will be one moment when I will mention something that might interest you. And if it doesn't, that's absolutely fine. So I think that's enough of an intro. Let's just crack on, shall we? Let me get the slides on the screen. So hopefully you can now see me, and you can also see my slides. I should say, about 2 webinars ago, we had a few connectivity issues. Hasn't happened since. If it does happen, and if the feed starts to break up and you can't hear me, let me know in the chat. And what I will then do is a very high-tech thing. I will run closer to the router. It's amazing. Technological advances, yet still some things are so basic. Here we go. So let's have a quick look at that poll. Okay, really interesting to see that there's not a single person here who has never used AI before. At least those of you who have completed the poll, thank you for doing that. So everyone here is at least faintly familiar with AI, which is encouraging, because hey, it's everywhere, so how could you possibly avoid it? But given that those poll results are very much in the middle of the poll, it looks as though we need a bit of confidence and a bit more familiarity with it, which is exactly where I'm trying to pitch this webinar. So we will do some of the basics, and then as time goes on, we'll get onto some slightly more in-depth stuff. But let's begin with what is AI. I'm not going to give you the whole potted history here, but a couple of important things that will help our understanding of when we're using AI. So AI is software that recognizes patterns, and what I mean by that is that AI is not actually autonomous. AI cannot think by itself. Think of it like a clever autocomplete on your phone when it suggests the next word that you might want to use when you're typing out a text message. What AI does is it guesses what comes next based on a hell of a lot of data. So it recognizes patterns, it uses its knowledge that it's been trained to learn, and it anticipates what will come next. So it doesn't actually think. It recognizes patterns and it guesses what's going to come next. Hello, Naomi. I forgive you for being late. So, for example, if you were to ask ChatGPT to complete the sentence, "It was a dark and stormy something," it would say, based on everything that it's read and learned and been trained to understand, it would feed you the word, "It was a dark and stormy night." Not because it's come up with that, but because it's learned that that is the most likely answer to that question. So I hope that makes some sense. AI has been around a hell of a lot longer than we might all think. It can actually be traced back all the way to Alan Turing. Then in the 1950s, there was a lot of experimentation with trying to train computers to mimic human thought. Then we fast forward, say, to 1997, when Deep Blue, the chess simulator, beat Garry Kasparov, again recognizing patterns and mimicking thinking like a human. In 2022, ChatGPT was launched. Yes, it was only in 2022, that recently. And since then, the world has just exploded into a mass of AI platforms and offerings. And you're probably even starting to see it creep into your estate agency CRMs now. Some of them are actually embedding it, but it's everywhere. If you've got a Netflix subscription, a Spotify subscription, an Amazon subscription, you are constantly being fed suggestions and recommendations based on its algorithms predicting, based on what it's learned, what you want to watch. And that itself is a form of AI. And why should it matter to estate agents? Well, here's just 4 reasons why. So first of all, in fact, those 2 at the top of that slide are the key reasons, really. Time. It can speed things up hugely. It's most capable with written content. So we'll come into actual uses lately, but in a moment. But when you actually want it to write material for you, that is what it's brilliant at. And the last point there, I put slightly tongue in cheek. It knows more than you. I don't mean about everything, but those areas where you are weakest, it will be more capable than you because it's learned a hell of a lot. So it can help to plug the gaps in your skills and the gaps in your knowledge. So time is a factor, time efficiencies, but also quality of output. Can it do certain things better than you are capable of doing them yourself? For this quick half-hour session, I'm going to really base this mainly on ChatGPT, mainly because it is the foremost, most commonly used AI platform that you're probably most familiar with. There are others out there. We won't have time to get onto them today, such as Claude, Gemini. If you've heard of those and you're wondering what they are, they basically replicate much of what ChatGPT does. But ChatGPT has become the most commonly used platform. So we're going to base it on that. So what do you need to know about ChatGPT by way of introduction? As I said, it was launched in 2022. Remember, it's not sentient. It learns, recognizes patterns, and then predicts information that you're looking for. Unlike many AI platforms that came before it, it's built for human-like text. In other words, you don't need to be a computer programmer to make it work. You can just type in everyday language, and it will recognize and respond to you. The first version of ChatGPT that was launched in 2022, just to give you an idea of the scale and breadth of its knowledge, was trained on 175 billion different parameters and 570 gigabytes of text, including websites like Wikipedia, actual books, all sorts of different text sources. 570 gigabytes, just to give you an idea, is roughly approximates to about 1.3 million books. That's 3 times the amount of text in the entire Library of Congress. So this huge amount of information. So ChatGPT knows an awful lot. And that's why it's so good at providing us with certain information. We'll come on to the flaws of ChatGPT soon, but that's the background information to it. I think that's enough preamble. I want to dive into actual uses of ChatGPT. So now looking again at the poll, yep, nobody said that they've never used it before, but I want to give you a brief introduction just in case you're unfamiliar and really starting with the basics. This will only take a minute. This is the ChatGPT. This is my ChatGPT. This is what it looks like. Just to highlight a couple of areas to you that you'll want to recognize. So down the left-hand side here that I've highlighted, you've got a menu. Now, we don't actually need to do very much with this, but at the top, you've got the important new chat feature where you click to start a new chat. And below that, you've got search chats. So if you want to find something that you were working on 3 weeks ago, you can type in keywords and recall a chat that you were working on previously. That's quite useful. But for now, we don't need to worry about anything else there. But the main bit that we need to look at is the bit in the center of the screen, which I'll magnify for you here. This is where we tell ChatGPT what to do. This is how we actually control it. You'll see in the middle, it says ask anything. That is where you type your instructions to tell ChatGPT what to do. And I want to quickly tell you what these other icons are just beneath ask anything and what they do. So first of all, I've circled it in red. The plus sign, that's a very useful thing. And the main thing there is it allows you to attach photos and files. I'll come on a little later for some uses as to how you might actually do that and why you might want to. But that's a really useful function. So you can upload and save things to ChatGPT, which it then uses when you instruct it to do so. Then moving along one, tools. Nothing particularly that we're going to use today, but you can see what the options are. Those are all different functions that ChatGPT can perform. You don't have to select one of those. You can just type in instructions and leave it at that. Moving along the microphone, this enables you to dictate your instructions instead of typing it out. That might be a time-saving measure. That's purely all that is. Then the one on the far right-hand side, which we won't have time to go into in great depth today, but it is a really great feature. That activates something called voice mode. What that means is that you can use ChatGPT entirely by conversing with it. Instead of typing into it and getting a written response back, you can actually carry out quite a natural conversation, a back and forth with ChatGPT. You talk to it, it responds in a relatively human way, and back and so forth. You can continue the conversation. So voice mode is something worth exploring. So that is the basic anatomy of ChatGPT. Let's now dive into actually how to use it. What you put into ChatGPT is crucial. What you put in reflects what you get out. And the main thing that I would like you to take away from today's session is the better the input, the better the output. So what we're going to look at over the next few slides is how putting in great prompts, we call these prompts when you type in an instruction into ChatGPT, the better the prompt, the better result you'll get. Some of us make the mistake of treating ChatGPT as though it is the director of our company. We just leave it to do its own thing, and we blindly trust the results because we think it knows what it's doing. Well, I'd like you to have slightly less trust in ChatGPT. See it more as a junior team member. You have to be quite specific in what you want ChatGPT to do. Ask it for follow-up questions. We'll come on to that in a minute. I'll show you how that works. But also, and I haven't put it on the slide, always check its work. Second guess ChatGPT. Make sure that you fact check it. Make sure you're happy with the results that it produces and don't just blindly trust what it does for you. You might have heard of ChatGPT hallucinations. This is something that is of great concern to, for example, the legal community. And there have been quite a lot of instances now in the US where lawyers have got themselves into trouble presenting case studies of legal cases in court cases, which turned out never to have existed in the first place. And the reason why that happened was because they blindly trusted information that was given to them by ChatGPT without double checking it. And it turned out that ChatGPT was making stuff up. Remember, ChatGPT bases its output on what it has learned. And not everything that it's learned is accurate. So do treat it like a junior team member and make sure you manage it. So I say the better the prompt, the better the result. So how do we write a prompt then? How do we tell it what to do in a effective way. So I've written a structure for how you can prompt ChatGPT, which I call it the RAFTS-Q prompt formula. I wanted to come up with a snappy acronym, and I came up with RAFTS, which is great because that's a real word. Unfortunately, I then realized that I wanted to put a Q on the end of it, and that spoiled things. But this is a really good way to recall how to prompt ChatGPT in a very thorough way that will give you great results. And we're going to start with the R at the top there, which is role. ChatGPT can operate in a great many different ways, so it helps to tell it exactly how you want it to behave. Who should the AI act as? If that's not clear to you, I'll be demonstrating all these in a moment, and you'll get a far clearer understanding. The A is action. So what should it do? Briefly, what function do you want it to perform? The format. How do you want it to present its output? Do you want it in bullet points? Do you want it formatted into paragraphs? There's a great many different ways. Tone. How do you want it to sound? Do you want it to be formal? Do you want it to be friendly? Do you want it to be humorous? Specifics. The more information, the more context and details you can provide about your query, the more accurate the reply will be. And finally, that troublesome Q that messed up my acronym is questions. The chat element of ChatGPT is quite often forgotten. This is something that you can have a back and forth with. It's not like Google, where you put in a search and you pick a result. The response that ChatGPT gives you is just the first step. You can go back and forth and refine and improve the output. So ask ChatGPT to ask you clarifying questions. So there's a template for how to structure your prompts. I'm going to go on now and give several specific examples of that to make it a bit clearer for you. So let's look at just a handful of examples of how we might use ChatGPT in a state agency life. Here's 5. I'm looking at the time. I don't know if we'll have time to go through them, so I'm going to maybe skip a couple, and if we have time at the end, I'll come back to them. We've got turning property images into a Rightmove description, draft tricky email responses, for example, customer complaints, simplify legal updates. I come from the world of lettings, and when a new bill is introduced, helping to break that down and explain it to you in layman's terms. Repurposing content, blog writing, turning that into social media posts, turning it into press releases, turning it into video scripts, and just brainstorming business ideas. Let's dive into the first one. So we're going to look at how you might use ChatGPT to turn property images into a Rightmove description. So first of all, I want to show you a really basic ChatGPT prompt if we were using it in a very simple way. You might type into ChatGPT, write a Rightmove description for this property, and then save these photos. If there's anyone from Andrews on the call, apologies, I've stolen these photos off Rightmove. Thank you in advance. This is my home city of Bath, where I was an agent for 15 years. So you might then upload these photos, that floor plan, to ChatGPT and say, write a Rightmove description for this property. And I'm going to show you the output that ChatGPT actually, when I put this through ChatGPT, what it gave me. And I was a little bit disappointed because it's not bad. Sorry if that's slightly small on your screen. I'll read the beginning of it. Nestled in one of Bath's most recognisable Georgian terraces, this bright and beautifully presented one-bedroom apartment offers the perfect blend of period charm and contemporary living. And so it goes on. It's not bad. It's generic, but it's not bad. What I want to show you is how much better we can do when we refine the prompt that we give ChatGPT. So here's a prompt using the RAFTS-Q prompt formula. So we've got role. You are a professional copywriter with expertise in writing compelling Rightmove listings that drive inquiries. Action. Write a Rightmove property listing description based on the attached images. Please analyze these to identify key features, architectural style, and standout elements. Format. Rightmove style property description. Structured as a punchy opening paragraph, followed by a clear descriptive summary of key rooms/features, and ending with a brief call to action. End with 10 punchy bullet points that summarize the key selling points of the property. Tone. Engaging and informative with a friendly and confident tone. Avoid cliches or exaggerations, but highlight genuine selling points. Important point here, use UK English. That's how we avoid using Americanisms in spelling and grammar. Specifics, I've just put this as a 1-bedroom ground floor flat on Fountain Buildings in central Bath, and then the invitation at the bottom there to ask me clarifying questions so that it can perform the task to the best of its ability. Now, when I put that into ChatGPT, let me just show you. So here we go. Here's a screenshot of me earlier. I've used the plus icon and I've saved all the images and the floor plan to ChatGPT, and I've put in that exact prompt. So the first thing that it did is it asked me a bunch of questions. I won't read them all aloud, but you can have a quick look down that list. It's identified what it hasn't got information about that might be useful, and it's asked me clarifying questions. Luke, I've I've seen your question. I'll come back to that in 1 minute, please. So I gave it very succinct answers to all of those questions. And then the output that it gave me, and I'm sorry, this will be quite small text on your screen, but I'll briefly summarize it. It's just a lot more detailed and a far better piece of writing. A Brighton characterful ground floor apartment in one of Bath's most prestigious central locations. Moments from the assembly rooms and a short stroll from George Street with high ceilings, period charms, and flexible living space. This is an ideal first home, pied-à-terre, or investment property. And it goes on. It mentions more specific details about investment potential, about its location, about the features. And it finishes with those 10 Rightmove bullet points because we've told it to. And if you look at that and you think, well, that doesn't quite do it for me. Well, that's because it's the style that I've told it to write in. You can, of course, get it to reflect whatever tone of voice and style you want. If you want it to be more extravagant or, a little bit more characterful, then tell it to do that. And the best way to do that, when you're prompting it, when you get to the T part of your prompt, the tone of voice, you can always include examples. You can copy and paste in text that you have written or that you've seen online that you absolutely love, and you can tell it to mimic that tone of voice. So that's just one example of how to do that. Luke, can ChatGPT create floor plans? No. ChatGPT specifically would not be able to do that. Not accurately and not based on specific measurements, so not to scale. It can produce images. So if you did a sketch by hand and photographed it and uploaded it to ChatGPT and said, make a more professional version of this, then it can kind of recreate that drawing, but it wouldn't necessarily be to scale or reliably accurate. Rebecca, Copilot can be used in a pretty similar way, yeah. We're going to crack on because I've got one eye on the clock. So I warned you in advance that there would be one moment of self-promotion. We're about, I was about to say we're at the halfway point. We're very, very much not. And I'm about to do that one brief moment of self-promotion. We are literally at the tip, touching the tip of the iceberg with this. There is so much more other than in this half hour that we could go through. This is a passion of mine. As a trainer, I love helping people with ChatGPT because it's helped me with my work so much. So I have written 2 standalone courses. These are half-day courses carried out live online with me. I've launched them just this morning. They've been in the trade press. You might have seen about them. An AI Essentials course and a separate course specifically for marketing. So these are paid half-day courses, and we go into a lot more detail. We do more demonstrations. I set you tasks to carry out while we're on the call. We go through more uses, and we also look at other platforms and tools other than ChatGPT. And the marketing course, that is more about content creation, carrying out market research, actually also creating synthetic customers. So creating an artificial customer that you can chat to and talk to about your products and services and get feedback. So that's my little bit of self-promotion. There's more about them on my website. There's an early bird, there's a limited early bird price available for those. Self-promotion done. Thank you for tolerating it. Jenny, yeah, thank you for mentioning the free tier of ChatGPT. So you're right. Some of the things, nothing so far, but some of the things that I'll show you, there's a paid tier of ChatGPT and there's a free tier of ChatGPT. The free tier is pretty good to use. The paid tier costs $20, so I think about 16, 17 pounds per month. I think that is great value for money. I'm not selling ChatGPT, but I think it's great for what you get. I'm going to give you a brief glimpse a little bit later of some of the additional features that you get with that paid tier. So we'll push on. I'm conscious of time. We'll probably run about 5 minutes over, so I hope that's okay for you. But of course, do go if you need to. So the next few slides are just more examples of how to craft those prompts. So this is drafting a complaint response email, and I'll leave you to look at that yourself. But again, we've got the same structure where you can feed in, a tricky customer sent you an email complaining about the service they've received. You can feed that, copy and paste that email into ChatGPT, give it this prompt, and it will craft a reply that probably would have taken you a very long time to do. And as I said earlier, you will need to fact check that reply. You'll need to make sure you're 100% happy before it gets sent. But what a time saver. What I'll do at the end, I've got kind of a live demonstration lined up for that particular one. I'll come back to that at the end. And if you want to stay behind for a few minutes and just see me go through those steps, then I will. The next example, simplify legal updates. Like I said, I'm from the world of lettings. Go to the government website, download the actual PDF of the renters' rights bill. You can attach that very legally dense, complicated PDF file to ChatGPT. Ask it to write plain English summaries. Ask it to write explainers for your team so you probably understand it. Then you can convert that into information for your clients. So you can actually save a document using the plus icon to ChatGPT and get it to break down that document in whatever way you wish. And content creation is one of the fundamental uses of ChatGPT. So here, turn a news article into a trust-building blog post. So very simply, many agents get behind in their blog writing, got a stale, unused blog on your website. That is something that shouldn't happen in the age of ChatGPT any longer, because you can do it in minutes. Let's say you open up today's Guardian or whatever you read, and you read something about mortgage interest rates. All you've got to do is put the link to that article into ChatGPT, and it will write you a blog based on that news. Repurpose, let other people do the work for you. Repurpose existing news into content for your own website, for your clients and customers, and your own newsletters and things like that. But again, be specific and be thorough with your prompts. And then last just of these examples, we have carrying out market research. So this one is very different to the previous ones. This is actually using ChatGPT almost like a business partner for those company owners out there to try and carry out research on your market audience, identify pain points for your customers. And actually, this one is producing blog topics, but equally, you could get it to give you feedback on business ideas and things like that. So actually, this is the one that I thought was on the previous screen. So this is researching other agencies in your area and coming up with points of differentiation to improve your own service based on what other agents are doing. These I'm going to actually, because it's coming out to past, I've made the download available in the downloads tab. So all of these prompts are in there. All of these prompts and the prompt structure, you can download those. That's why I'm flicking through them quite quickly. Okay, so I want to look at one other feature before we end the call, which will take me about another 5 minutes. I do hope you can stay for it because it's a fantastic feature. Now, let me make myself a little bit bigger. As we've been going through this, you may have been thinking to yourself, blimey, if I've got to write like a 6-point prompt just to get a good output, then is that really all that much of a time saver? I'm going to spend just as long writing the prompt as I would have done if I just written the thing myself in the first place. And there's 2 points I'd like to make to that. One is, yes, ChatGPT can be a great time saver, but you should also look at the quality that ChatGPT can produce. So its sole purpose isn't just to save you time, it's also to increase the standard of the work that you do. So part of this is about getting really high quality work out of ChatGPT. But the next thing that I'm going to show you is a massive time saver. And all of those prompts that I've been showing you previously, you don't have to write them every time. And this is something that relates to the paid tier, the $20 a month tier of ChatGPT, but it is a fantastic feature. Let me revert back to my slides. Okay, so this is something called ChatGPT Projects. It's a relatively new feature of ChatGPT. It's been out for a few months now. I'm going to show you what it does, but in a moment. But generally speaking, it allows you to save information, such as your brand voice, your tone of voice. It allows you to save information to ChatGPT that it will then use again and again without you having to tell it to every single time. It gets to know your business. And let's look at this specifically. So coming back to the menu over the left-hand side, you might notice I've circled it in red there. We have these things called projects, and you can see a couple of mine there. They look like folders, and you can have, as far as I know, as many as you want. And you can make them all slightly different to each other. But when you go into a project, this is what it looks like. And I just want to highlight two key things down the bottom. First of all, you have project files. Now, these are documents that you can upload to this specific project. Now, I want you to think of a project as a mini version of ChatGPT that's saved under the main platform. So you go into this mini version of ChatGPT and you can customize it. You can customize each individual mini project that you can create. So the project files that I always upload to my projects are these, which are hopefully documents that you may already have in place within your business. Things like customer avatars, a summary of my services, my company values, my tone of voice guide with examples of writing that I've done or writing that I like, and background, my company history, awards that I've won, things that I've achieved. And by saving that to the project, it will use it every time you ask that project to perform a task. So it means you don't have to repeat your tone of voice. It means that it knows all of the background information about your customers, your company, your services, and it will take that into consideration with all of the work that it does for you. And the second thing you have in this mini project within ChatGPT are custom instructions. And this is where all of the prompts that I've shown you before, you can save those within this mini project, and it will adhere to those instructions every time it does something for you. So this particular mini project is one that I've set up to convert news articles into blog posts for my website. So opening up, so these are the instructions that I've given it. And actually, there's only a small window there. The instructions are actually much longer than that. They go off the bottom of the screen. But to give you an idea, I've been very specific. This project will convert news articles into high-quality blog posts for the Martin Estates website. Each blog should be engaging, informative, and aligned with the company's brand, tone of voice, and customer expectations. And then I've put workflow. 1, the system will receive a URL to a news article. That's a link to a news article. The article's main points, statistics, and key takeaways will be extracted. The article will be rewritten and structured in an original blog post, ensuring it aligns with Martin Estates' values and expertise. And as the instructions continue, I've instructed it to include quotes and commentary from me as the managing director of Martin Estates to demonstrate my expertise. And I wonder if I can, yeah, I think we can do this. I'm just going to quickly show you just how easy that makes life for me. So bear with me a moment while I share my screen. And very quickly, there you go. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Oh, we've got the infinity window. Let's get rid of that. So if I, here we go. Here is my ChatGPT, and I'm just going to find here is my news to blog project, which isn't actually loading at the minute. Come on. There we go. Here's my news to blog project, exactly as I have been showing you. And I'm going to go on to, let's just Google property news, get a news article, first time buyers, let's go interest rates, take this Sky News article. Always risky when you're doing a live demo, so let's cross our fingers here. These features could add thousands to value to value of your home if you time it right. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to put in the link, and when I press go, it's going to follow all of those instructions that I've pre-programmed in. So let's see what happens. See if it actually manages to do it. It says it's just looking at my project files. Here's a blog post. Interest rate cut on the horizon, what it can mean for the property market. What it can mean for buyers and sellers. Martin Estate's perspective. Because that's what I've told it to do. So there you go. Book a free consultation today and find out how market conditions could affect your next move. All very slick. Took me what, 30 seconds? Let me stop my screen share. Okay. So that demonstrates what you can do. And the ideal way to set up ChatGPT is to set yourself up with these projects that are pre-programmed to do exactly what you want. So you might have one for content. You might have a separate project that's set up for generating business ideas. You might have another project that's set up specifically to deal with customer complaints. And setting up these mini projects means you don't have to put in these lengthy prompts every time. It already knows exactly what you need it to do. We are pretty much out of time. And I hope that has been, I know, a whirlwind tour, but it's given you a few things. It's given you the essential knowledge of what ChatGPT is capable of. In the download that I've made available to you, I've put a list of 50 possible uses of ChatGPT in estate agency life. I've also put all of those prompts that I momentarily put on the screen so that you can go away and have a go yourself. The great thing with ChatGPT is you can just go away and play with it now. Even if you don't subscribe, you can go away and play with the free version. You can plug in those prompts that I've shared with you just now and see how you get on. And do tailor them and customize them to your own company, your own brand, your own tone of voice. I'm very passionate about ChatGPT not allowing us as businesses to become generic. So that is why I've shared this thorough prompt structuring with you, so that actually ChatGPT's output can represent you and your business and your tone of voice very authentically. So do have a play. If you would like to dig deeper, do join me on these courses that I've launched. They're going to be a lot of fun. We'll go through things more methodically. You'll get to have a go at things, and we'll go into a lot more detail. But otherwise, I'm not in any hurry. If anyone would like to stay behind and drop any questions into the chat, then we will. Oh, I said I'd do a live demo of the customer complaint. I think we're going to say the webinar has finished. If you want to hang around and just see me do a live demo of dealing with this customer complaint, I will do that now. But otherwise, I'll say thank you very much for attending. I'm doing another webinar at the end of next month, which is about video editing. So thank you very much. Okay, so we'll come back to the customer complaint now. And I'll share my screen with you once more, and we will get the infinity window. So what I've got here, I've saved this in advance. This is the prompt to say, you are a professional lettings expert and customer service writer, skilled in drafting calm, professional, and empathetic responses to customer complaints. And it goes on to explain exactly how I want it to deal with a complaint. And then I've written this fictional complaint. So this is written by a landlord, a fictional landlord, who is disappointed with the condition in which they have received their property back at the end of a tenancy, a situation which I'm sure many of us are very familiar with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste the whole thing into ChatGPT. So let's start a new chat. Paste that in here. So just a reminder what we're doing, because I don't want to go too fast. So we've got here our prompt telling ChatGPT the whole RAFTS-Q structure here. So we've included tone of voice. I've prompted it to ask me questions. And then I've finished the prompt by saying, here is the landlord's email. And then let's imagine I got this in my inbox this morning. I've simply copied and pasted the email that was sent by this unhappy landlord into ChatGPT. So that whole text is now in here. I know it looks a bit messy. It's cut out the line breaks in between, but that doesn't matter at all. Let's see what happens. So it's having a little think. It's reading what I've put in. Certainly, before I draft your reply, could you confirm a few details to ensure accuracy and tone? I'm going to put quite succinct replies, but if you were replying to a really tricky customer, you might want to take some time over this, but I'm going to literally put one-word answers. Was it managed or let only? It was managed. 2, were mid-tenancy inspections carried out and shared with the landlord? Yes, inspections were carried out. 3, is the landlord correct in stating the report was generic? No, I wouldn't send a generic report. It was detailed and photographic. 4, do you or would you consider offering a goodwill gesture, or are you looking to stand firm on no financial compensation for the tenancy from the agency? No compensation. The landlord is seeking betterment. 5, roughly how much is the proposed deposit deduction versus the landlord's out-of-pocket costs, if known? So I'm going to be quite stubborn, and I'm going to say the landlord is not out of pocket. They are seeking compensation for matters that should be their responsibility anyway, not the tenants. 6, has the deposit now been formally disputed by either party via the deposit scheme, or is it just proposed at this stage? Let's say the tenant has formally disputed, so the matter is with the TDS. All right, I've answered his questions. Let's see what email it now drafts. Here we go. Dear Mr. Reed, thank you for your email. I'm sorry to hear how disappointed you felt on returning to the property, and I appreciate you taking the time to set out your concerns so clearly. I do understand how frustrating it must have been to find the property below the standard you would have expected. I'm going to skip through a little bit here because, as you can see, it's quite a lengthy email. I'd like to reassure you that a full and detailed inspection was carried out, including photographic evidence. Good. Based on that inspection, we proposed a series of deductions from the tenant's deposit to reflect cleaning, damage, and fair wear. Now, that's the kind of thing you do need to double check, because I haven't told it that we proposed deductions, I don't think. So it might have put that in there off its own free will. So fact check, make sure it's accurate. As you know, the tenants have chosen to dispute the proposed deductions. We've already submitted all relevant evidence. In terms of your wider questions, so now it's addressing the particular questions that the landlord raised in their own email. Inspection and oversight. Routine property visits were carried out during the tenancy. No concerns were raised. The property was tenanted for some time, and while wear and tear is expected, we sought to hold the tenants accountable for anything we believe exceeded that threshold. Reporting detail. Compensation. Let's see what it says about that. I do appreciate that you've undertaken some work at your own cost, but in this case, we don't believe the circumstances justify a contribution from our agency. The proposed deductions are designed to reflect what the tenant may be reasonably held liable for. Other works, such as full redecoration or carpet replacement, may fall outside what's considered tenant responsibility under current deposit scheme guidelines, particularly where betterment may be seen to apply. So, in this example, that's a pretty good example, I think. Sorry, I'm now just trying to navigate my way back to you. There you are. So there we go. That's the kind of live demo of that one that I didn't quite have time for during the main webinar. I can see a few questions on the screen. Let me work through them. Claire, no, that is not a simple question at all, and it is confusing. The difference between ChatGPT and OpenAI, very simply, OpenAI is the company that owns ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the product. OpenAI is the business that owns it. So the platform is called ChatGPT, and it's run by OpenAI. Irving, wonderful. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you on the full courses. Danny, yes, as soon as I hit end broadcast, you'll receive a copy of the recording, and it'll also go on my YouTube channel. I think that's all. I don't see any more questions coming in. I'm really grateful to you for sharing some of your valuable time. It's been a whistle-stop tour. I hope some of it has been of use. Whether you come on the paid courses or not, you're always very welcome to contact me if you have any little questions that you'd like to run past me. Thank you very much for being here, and I hope to see you all here on another one of these webinars in the future. Bye-bye.